this is exactly what you need to plan for in terms of overhead expenses when you're starting your Pinterest management business. So I am so excited to break down in this episode what those overhead expenses are going to look like, because it's actually quite simple, and spoiler alert, it's not a lot. One of the beautiful things about starting my service-based business was the fact that I did have very little overhead costs. And so that meant the revenue I was generating was almost essentially 100% profit, which is kind of unheard of. When my business expenses started to skyrocket is when I started creating my digital courses, my products. Then my overhead expenses started to really go up and eat at that profit. But you don't need to know about that right now, because you are thinking about starting your freelance Pinterest management business. And in the beginning, one of the biggest investments I made was actually in skills training. And I took a course that taught me all of the foundations and truly everything I needed to start a freelance business. Now, it didn't teach me specifically how to market on Pinterest and manage Pinterest accounts, what is ultimately what I niched down to, but it did teach me important business foundations. And so I felt confident in starting and offering virtual assisting services. Then I did niche down pretty quickly to social media management. And I did that for about a year before I then niched down again to Pinterest, because I knew I didn't want to work as a virtual assistant indefinitely, but it was a really great way to get started. And I did that for about 6 weeks. And then I quickly pivoted to social media management. So I did social media management for about a year before I pivoted to Pinterest, and Pinterest was really where my heart was at. It's been very stable and sustainable, and I really felt like virtual assisting and social media management was stable and sustainable as well. But it ultimately came down to what I loved and what I was most passionate about. So that's why I ultimately pivoted to Pinterest marketing. And that's what I've been doing for over 5 years now. And fun fact, once I pivoted to Pinterest and I landed that first client, since then, I was never without a client. I just really started to build this amazing client base. And like I said, it was very stable and sustainable. So back to those overhead expenses and what that looked like with investing. So in the beginning, I did invest in that skills training because I knew I didn't have a degree, experience, or background in business, sales, marketing. I really didn't know the first thing about starting a freelance business. And I really didn't want to try to put puzzle pieces together and honestly just try to figure it out on my own. I wanted the fast and clear route. So I invested in a course, and it was honestly one of the best decisions to date that I've ever made for myself. And it truly gave me that foundation I needed to get started as a freelancer. And so that initial investment, I want to say it was $597. And at the time, that felt like so much money to me because I knew that there weren't any guarantees or promises. Yes, this was a very legitimate business model and it worked for other people. So it wasn't like I was investing in something and doing the impossible or doing something that nobody else has ever done before. But I had to decide, am I going to put in the work and commit to this so that I do get the results that I want? So in the beginning, my first goal was to just get back that initial investment. That happened very quickly because within, I want to say 8 weeks, I actually was replacing my full-time teaching income. Now, I will say, as a teacher, it's not a surprise that I didn't get paid a lot. So that wasn't like the craziest feat to replace that, but I did feel amazing. So step one was replace that investment of $597. Step two, once I got that money back, I wanted to replace my $1,800 a month income from teaching. And like I said, that I accomplished within 8 weeks, I believe. But this was when I first got started. So those months, as I was learning more, I was really building my service-based business. The overhead expenses really didn't change from when I pivoted from social media management to Pinterest management. And that's because some of the things that I was paying for were platforms like Canva, where I designed, and that's where I created my portfolio. And in the beginning, I didn't create a website. I just used my portfolio to land clients. So I paid for the subscription of Canva, and I want to say it's like $12.95 a month. It might have even been like lower, like $10 a month multiple years ago when I first bought that. So I had that expense, $10 a month from Canva. And whether I was a virtual assistant, social media manager, or Pinterest manager, I needed Canva because I needed to design graphics. So now as a Pinterest manager, I'm designing pins, and you can have a free version of Canva, but you just have more features, tools, stock images, lots of helpful things like that when you have the paid version. So I did invest in paying for that pro version of Canva monthly. And then another expense was &Co. So &Co has been rebranded and now it's called Fiverr Workspace. And so it kind of converted from &Co to Fiverr Workspace. As far as the features and the capabilities, that really stayed the same. And essentially what that platform does for me is it was where I created proposals, contracts, and sent invoices. And I've also used that as essentially my bookkeeping platform as well. So when you're thinking about those overhead expenses, you could have the free version of Canva. I did pay for that, but then you do need to have a platform where you can keep track of the money coming in and going out of your business, because obviously for tax purposes, that's going to be important. And to be honest, because I had in the beginning 3 to 4 clients, that wasn't super hard to track the money coming in. And also the money going out, there wasn't a lot of money going out. So as far as keeping my books, it really was not overly complicated at all. But I did need to have that platform, and Fiverr Workspace was really convenient because I could also schedule invoices. So if somebody was on a retainer package, I could bill them the first of every month, and I could have these automations and systems in place. And that was super convenient for me as well. And Fiverr Workspace, like I said before, it was &Co, rebranded to Fiverr Workspace. That's about $24.95, I believe, a month. So it's about $25 a month. Long story short, as far as my overhead expenses, they were literally maybe $50 a month. They were so low. I had the free version for project management. I used Trello. I had the free version of Trello. I use Airtable for managing my clients' pins. And I teach all of these things inside my academy. That's one thing that's super nice about my Pinterest Manager Academy is I share all of my tools, my resources, my templates. And I also encourage my students, I will say, you can have the free version of this and it will allow you to do everything that you need to. So it's so amazing. These platforms are fantastic and that they also have really great free versions. And so with Airtable, I used the free version for a long time. And so that was really helpful for me as well to be able to utilize the free version. And of course, like I said, there were a few other expenses. Now, I would say as far as overhead expenses, that was honestly it. I think I had 2 or 3 total overhead expenses. Now, when I waited like 1.5 years to set up my website, but then I did have to buy my domain. And so that was a yearly expense. So when you spread that out, I could do the math and I knew approximately how much that cost monthly. But once again, when I was really functioning just as a service provider, my expenses seriously never exceeded more than like $75 to $100 a month. It was crazy. So if I was making $2,000 a month, that was almost all profit. So maybe like $1,950 after my business expenses. Now, where I started spending a bit more money for my business was when I started investing in more skills training and also business coaching. And I actually wish I would have invested in both of those sooner because they truly were things that helped me move the needle. So my first business coach cost $1,000 a month, and it was essentially a 6-month commitment. So it was a $6,000 commitment. That felt like so much money to me. And because the first course I bought was only $597, to think about committing $6,000 to this business coach, it made me a little queasy. I think that mindset was hard for me, especially having been a former teacher. I just wanted to hold on to all of my money. But the thing is with business, I truly believe that in order to get to where you want to get to the next level, you really have to continue to invest in your business and learn from people that have already done what you want to do. And so I knew that this business coach could help me. I also had a previous relationship with her. I loved her, I trusted her, and she did. She helped me grow my business to an amazing extent. So I think when I was signing on with her, I think I was only making maybe $1,200 to $1,500 a month as a Pinterest manager. And I was committing to $1,000 a month coaching program. So I'm like, oh, that really eats away at my profit, right? But within 6 months, I hit my first 5K month. And then 6 months later, I hit my first not 10K month, but 13K month and beyond. And I truly know that coaching made such a huge difference to my business and the growth. So as I continued on with my business, like I said, I started to have more overhead expenses, but that's because I did start creating courses and I had digital products. It was much cleaner and in some ways more simple when I was only offering my services. But because I wanted to start serving people on a larger scale, I wasn't really interested in having an agency and having other contractors work with me and under me. It just wasn't a way that I was interested in scaling, and that's okay. So that's why I wanted to create my course, serve more people where they could invest less money with me, but still get my Pinterest knowledge and strategy at a lower price. And I think also because I loved teaching, I'm a teacher at heart, that I loved creating the course. It was something I was passionate about. But like I said, it actually really got into my profit. And with different stages of business, there's new challenges and expenses. So it's definitely not something I regretted, but I just want to say that when you're thinking about starting your service-based business, having really high overhead expenses is not something you will face. Now, if you're making a lot of frivolous investments in paying for all these additional platforms, it can add up, but you don't need to. And when you have somebody that's already done what you want to do and you're learning from them, for example, me, and you're inside my academy, I tell you, you don't need to pay for that. You can do what you need to do with the free version. So having that guidance and somebody who's already paved the way for you, I really see in my students, it makes all the difference in the world. So hopefully that gives you some peace of mind when you're thinking about what you need to expect and plan for in terms of overhead expenses. They're very little, and that is the beautiful and simple part about having a service-based business. So if you want to learn more about becoming a Pinterest manager, I do have some wonderful free resources. I have a free download that is about how to make 5K monthly as a Pinterest manager. I also have a secret podcast. It has 10 episodes, and it really gives you the behind the scenes of my Pinterest management business and scaling to those 10K months and beyond. So I would love for you to binge that podcast. And if you're like, I know I want to do this, Emily, where can I sign up? I would love to have you apply to my Pinterest Manager Academy. So all of those resources will be linked in this episode. And let me know in the comments what questions you have, and I would love to invite you to subscribe to my channel. So I can't wait to see you soon in next week's episode. Bye for now.